All right.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. It's been 2 weeks.
It's been a fortnight, as they would say on certain other podcasts.
Yes. We like them. So here we are. Hi. Let's introduce. I'm Vince.
I guess I'm Justin, so they tell me.
That's what they tell you. Well, there's other names. Sometimes we say them when you're not around.
That's what the nice ladies that come behind the locked door tell me.
Mm-hmm. So we are Boozie Bears Knitting Podcast.
Yes, we are coming at you live from
beautiful,
the home of the AFC East champion Buffalo Bills.
Yes, and we are a city that is talking proud. I was going to make you watch this time.
Listen, how I already watched it. You're not going to horrify me on camera like you think you are.
But it is horrifying.
It is rather horrifying.
It is. The 1980s. We don't want that.
Oh.
I hate those. Your video will begin in 5 seconds.
Who has 5 seconds to wait for a video?
Yeah, there it is. This was the 80s in Buffalo. Everyone thought this was so great. Now we look at it and go, what was everyone thinking? That's enough of that. That foolishness. They're already wondering what the hell is wrong with us more than usual.
Pretty much. We've already lost another 5 subscribers.
They either love us or they don't.
Oh,
cats
look.
are starting to fight.
Just like old times.
Yes, they were hey, cut it out. It's a new voice, a voice they're not used to.
Right.
They're used to you. It's
right.
like yelling at your nieces and nephews.
Mm-hmm.
They'll listen to you because your voice is not the one they're used to ignoring. Anyways, so that's us. We're from Buffalo. And that's who we are. We are a knitting podcast, though you are bisexual.
I am bisexual.
Crochet.
I go both ways.
I'm merely crochet curious. Which I think now that the holidays are over, I'm going to explore it more. Do a little more trying. Those squares for the homeless blankets. They could get me into doing more crochet.
There you go. That's an easy way to do it.
That's it. Of course, I'll never be as fast as other people we know who crochet.
Yeah.
We do have friends. One of the ladies in our Wednesday night group, she'll, blow out 10 corner-to-corner squares, while we're there for a couple hours. So she's pretty darn speedy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's that. So we're through the first of the holidays. Christmas 2020 has come and gone, and I had the true Christmas 2020 experience. I hadn't told you about this, but it really sums up 2020. About a week after Thanksgiving, I went up in the attic, got my decorations. I have a little pre-lit tree that I put on top of a tote and decorated, and it's just neat, it's nice, it's fine. So I did it, and I saw it's pre-lit, so the bottom strand of lights were out. And I'm like, whatever, there's still lights on. Well, about a week later, more lights were out. About a week before Christmas, I noticed only the star on the top was the only thing lit. So I'm like, well, I have a couple of strands of lights. I usually put them up in the front window. I'll go get, those and just string it around the tree just to have that for Christmas. Well, of course, I waited to do that. It was Christmas Eve, and I finally went and through the box of decorations, and I grabbed one strand, plugged it in, nothing. The entire strand was out. So I grabbed the other one, Well, that was the strand that half of the lights weren't working. So it only had half, and it was the half from the plug to the middle of it that was out. So I'm like, oh, the hell with it. So I have a tree that just the star lights up. That's it. So that, and I thought, this is a perfect Christmas 2020.
Yeah.
But Christmas was very quiet. We stayed home. It was Mom, myself, and my younger brother. That was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and you know what? I was good with that. Didn't have to drive anywhere, didn't have to worry about the weather, didn't have to worry about certain relatives that just strive to be annoying. Because you see online people saying, well, I have 65 people coming over, I always have 65 people coming over. I don't know 65 people I would run in my house, let alone like them. Off the top of my head, I don't think I could name 6.
Or 5.
So, but that's that, and New Year's is this week, and I have not gone out for New Year's in several years, so I will.
So this year's going to be the first year, right?
No way. I'm staying home.
But this is the perfect year to go out because nobody will be there.
Yeah, but every place will be closed. You can't go anywhere.
No.
So, no, stay home, knit, watch Rockin' New Year's Eve. At midnight, Mom and I will have shrimp. That's that. So, those are my exciting holiday plans and festivities and hoo-has and yadas.
So my Christmas, hold on to your seats. Buckle your seatbelts. So I started out at work, and I ended asleep in my living room chair.
Fun times.
And then in bed.
Fun times.
Yeah, that was it. Actually, Christmas was a little bit more exciting than that. On Christmas Eve, my brand new nephew was born. I'll put a picture right here. But he was born early in the morning on Christmas Eve. Like I said, I did work. Today was day 7 of 10 for me, and then I have 4 days off. So I am going to go to, my siblings live in Rochester, New York, so I'm going to go over there on New Year's Day. And he's going to get in that box with the paper and make all sorts of noise. No, maybe not. Just kidding. Anyways, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do for New Year's. I'm gonna go see a new baby. But other than that, I've just been working. That's it. My boss was on vacation, so I was pretty much in charge of the place. So
responsible adult.
That doesn't happen very often.
Well, I knew who your boss is, so.
That's true. In that case, I might actually always be the responsible adult. Anyways.
Our cocktail for this episode.
Yes, cock and tail.
Tell the folks what we are sipping on.
We are sipping on a delightful blend of, what is this? This is Sky Vodka, grapefruit flavored. It's really good because it's actually made with, it's like infused with actual grapefruit. So the flavor is real.
Natural grapefruit.
It's natural.
Not artificial grapefruit.
Not artificial orange flavoring like, some people, some people send us in the mail. Shade. Oh, the fan's over there. I can't shade. Oh well. Anyways, but it's mixed with 0 sugar Canada Dry Ginger Ale and No, the ambulance is going to make a cameo. So that happens. I live on the main artery into the medical campus. What are you gonna do? So yeah, that's what it is. It's very, very light and refreshing.
It's just a hint of grapefruit. It's not a very strong, overpowering grapefruit.
So
just enough.
I was at the store looking for Fresca. I was like, I'll even settle for Squirt. You know, Squirt has more sugar in it, which I don't really need, but I just settled for it. I didn't have either. What the?
Of course, somebody could have messaged me and said, hey, on your way here.
I thought they were going to have it next door.
They never have what you need when you want it.
No, they don't.
Any other time, I'm sure they have billions.
Oh, I'm sure I'll go tomorrow and they'll
Yes.
have an entire display of Fresca and Squirt next to each other just to torment me.
Because between my place and here, there were at least like 10 places I could have stopped to shop. One of them being a big supermarket.
You know?
But it's quite delicious and quite
It
refreshing.
is. I think it turned out quite well.
Yes. So we're giving it a thumbs up.
All right.
So, on with our foolishness before we babble some more.
Should we maybe like get into some knitting content?
Well, I think
Oh no,
we're gonna
that's
do
right.
our,
We
we're
have
gonna do our topic because we decided we're gonna have a episode topic. Like last time we did the Knitting Guild of Greater Buffalo, which we've talked about often, and this time we're going to discuss a little 411
dun dun
dun,
dun.
dun, 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 about the men's knitting retreats.
We don't have to ding that because
No,
we didn't
it's
say.
just
Yes.
it's only the one specific.
Yes.
So, picture it. 2008. Yes. Joe Wilcox, who's known on the blog sphere as Queer Joe, and Ted Myatt. I couldn't find Ted's last name. You've never met him. They were both bloggers, knitting bloggers, and they were discussing the idea of it would be great to have a knitting retreat for men. Because at the time, if you were a male knitter, you were the rooster in the hen house. If you were in a guild, if you were in a knitting circle, if you went to any of the big knitting events like Stitches or Vogue Live, or any of those, male knitters were few and far between. So they came up with this idea, and there was a men's retreat center called Easton Mountain. It's outside of Greenwich, New York, about an hour above Albany. So they put it together thinking, oh, who's gonna come to this? I think they thought maybe 10. And they had somewhere in the 30s that first time. And from there, it just bloomed. Other regional retreats opened up. There's one in Seattle that's been going on in the fall every year. The following year, the Midwest Knitters Retreat, Men's Knitting Retreat started. That's what it was originally called. And it started, that was when I was in. I've been going to that since it started. And the first night we met in Chicago. And then the second day we drove to Delton, Michigan, which was like a couple hours drive. And half the guys met in Chicago on Thursday. The rest met in Delton on Friday. And from there, that was born. And like I said, I've been going to it every year. After that first year, we cut out the Chicago part. The guy who was in charge of it kind of dropped off. Personal things kept him busy, so someone else who lived in Kalamazoo, Barry, he took over the Midwest retreat, and we basically started in Kalamazoo, and 20-minute drive to Delton on Friday, and that kept it up. So other ones have opened. Like I said, there's the one outside of Seattle, the fall retreat. There's a second East Coast retreat in the fall. Mm-hmm. There's one in the South. I think it's Georgia. I'm not sure. One of the Carolinas.
Sure. Maybe.
There is a men's knitting retreat website, which we will include the link to that. There's numerous Facebook groups of men who knit and crochet, and the individual retreats have their own Facebook pages as well. Eventually, the Midwest retreat became the Great Lakes Men's Knitting Retreat. Ding! Which, like I said, I've been involved with since then. And then once this guy started knitting, I said, you should come to this retreat. And part of it, there is a scholarship fund where new knitters or people who couldn't afford to do it on their own, scholarship money is raised, and it covers the cost of their attendance at the retreat, which is how you went the first time.
Yeah, that was the first year that I went, and like I have to say, I'm so glad that I did, because it's like I tell any of my friends, they're like, oh, I heard you're going away this weekend. Where are you going? It's like, oh, I'm going to a men's knitting retreat, and they're just like, a what? like what do you just hang out with a bunch of old people? I'm like not necessarily, like, is the age demographic typically the over 40 range? Yeah,
more of it
mostly, but I mean, I wasn't even the youngest person there. Like, there is actually somebody there that was younger than me that goes regularly. But no, it's you wouldn't expect it to be as much fun as it is.
Mm-hmm. And one of the big differences, excuse me, the Great Lakes Men's Knitting Retreat. Ding. It's smaller in number because we have a smaller space. Like the East Coast one usually is a sellout at 45 attendees, and the Great Lakes one, it's a smaller venue, so we have a smaller group, and we tend to be the same guys each year. There might be one or two who don't come every year, so there's that small number that fluctuates of who's there. So a lot of times it's just like a group of friends getting together for a weekend.
Yeah.
So, and we all know each other, and it's, friends who've seen the pictures, because we always do a group photo, they're like amazed at the collection of men who go to this. They're like, there's so many different types of guys.
Yeah.
Because men who knit, you think it's just a certain type of guy who's there, and it's not.
No. Not at all. I mean, I will say it at the Great Lakes Men's Knitting Retreat.
Ding.
Just because of our regular attendees, I would say the majority of us are of the LGBT variety. But I think that's just because it's more common. Yeah. Knitting is more common among gay men.
Yeah. Having gone to some of the others, it's not everyone.
No.
Is a gay man, because
not even at our retreat.
Yeah. The first time I went to the East Coast retreat, there were these two guys, and I thought they were this adorable couple. They were so nice and so friendly, and we're doing the icebreaker, and I'm talking with one of them, and all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, you two aren't a couple? I think I might have been a little loud. he laughed. He's like, no, we've been friends. We've known each other all our lives. We've been friends since we were in kindergarten. And one was married, the other one was engaged, and the wife and the fiance were like glad to be rid of him for the weekend. Who knew?
Straight people can do that?
But I usually tease them and say, well, you're gay for the weekend. So, but the common denominator is that we all love fiber and knitting, and it's just an amazing gathering of talent. Usually Saturday evening, we do a show and tell, and everyone brings stuff that they worked on and show it off, and you just are amazed at some of the things you see. Because at the bigger ones, some new guys get a little intimidated, and they're like, I'm not going to show mine. I'm like, no, you are going up and showing yours. I said, you see what he's doing? He's been knitting a long time. He's got a lot of experience. We all started making that first garter stitch scarf. It's like, do not look down on anything you've made, because we all coo and ah.
I was gonna say, like, that first year, did I even? Oh, you know what? I think this. Funny that it's sitting there. I just found it the other day. This is just a basic, like, infinity scarf that I made for myself. I think that this was the only thing I had for show and tell, and I honestly wasn't even gonna show it, but I did, and of course everybody's like, ooh, oh my goodness, it's so soft, like they, and they're not, like, the way we say it, it's like, they're not like blowing smoke up your ass. Like, people genuinely enjoy seeing what other people made. Like, whether it's just like you made a basic beanie, like, they don't care, they want to see what you made, because maybe that basic project that you did would give them the inspiration to, oh, you know what, I really want to make, like, that hat reminded me of this hat that I wanted to make, I should go do that. Like, I mean, that's how we all get our inspiration, from watching what other people are doing.
There's a lot of inspiration, and you get to see things that you were like, oh, I like this, but I was afraid to try it, and it's always, no, try it. If you have problems, you email me, instant message me. I'll help you through it. So,
Hey, are you doing what I think you're doing? All right, and we're back.
And we're back. So where were we?
They're talking about
show and tell.
Retreats. Yeah, retreats and stuff.
And you get to meet a lot of people, and friendships are built, and especially over time, 'cause, one of the things we do here is we always speak about a certain designer, and we say, the Stephen West. Because in 2009, at that first Midwest retreat, Stephen West lived in Chicago, and he was friends with the guy who arranged it, so he came on it, and he was, just starting out. He was working on the things that would become West Knits One, the first book. The Botanic had been published, and the Colonnade had shown up in Knitty. So he just was building that, that following. Back when he was so young, now we refer to him as Baby Stephen West,
right,
from back then. And
mind you, he's still younger than I am.
Yeah. So one of the field trips we went to Ryer Rose Fiber. She, invited us to her house, which is where her studio was, and at the same weekend, she was having her guild there. So there were about 9 or 10 ladies there, and a group of us showed up, and it's always, interesting when this, group of about 15 men show up in a yarn shop or a studio. We just kind of take over. So she talked with us and gave us a little bit of the 411. We did not get to see her studio. She's like, that's kind of my secrets. And we were like, that's cool. She's like, but one of the upstairs bedrooms was the yarn room. She's like, anything you want up there? She's like, we got a 20% discount. And men who knit with money. So we kind of like split up half and half. So half of us were down there, talking to the ladies from the guild. They had refreshments. They're like, eat something. So one of the guys was talking with one of the women, and she was working on the colonnade. And he's like, oh, you're working on Stephen's colonnade. And she gave him this funny look. And she's like, yeah, Stephen, he was one of the guys who's upstairs now. You met him, you shook hands with him. And you would have thought she was a 16-year-old girl who had met Justin Bieber. She's like, I shook hands with the Stephen West, and I didn't know. Well, of course, us being us, we thought this was hysterical, and we just teased him about this all weekend long, and every time we did it, his face got redder and redder, which only encouraged us to do it more. So pretty much, since that time, whenever his name comes up, it is the Stephen West. But he is a sweet, talented guy. He's very generous with the men's knitting retreats, offering up patterns and books and all sorts of stuff. And it was great to be able to meet him and see his talent in development. So, and that's just a little fun story that I have and like to share with the ladies who just fangirl him to death.
Right.
And they get all excited.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things, especially with our retreat specifically, is that we, every year, the guy that runs our retreat, he makes a Facebook chat group. And it has become basically an everyday occurrence that we're in there talking with everybody, just being absolute barking jackasses.
It's part of our charm.
It is. And it's just, it's not even necessarily always talking about knitting. Like, a lot of times it'll start with, like, ooh, look what I made. And then, then it'll, typical men be like, oh, nice legs, or like, it just devolves into,
especially if the picture shared is, your new knitting item laid across your lap.
Mm-hmm. You just get ribbed on about it, like, oh, you just wanted to show us a picture of, yeah. But, no, but especially, like, in this time when we've all been quarantined, it's been nice to have that connection, especially since this year we didn't get to have the retreat.
Yeah, for 2020, all of the retreats were canceled, except for there was one
that happened before
in February. I think the Rocky Mountain one happened in February, which that's because they've changed their dates. They used to be like June, July, because I went a couple times to that. Beautiful there. But the air is just so thin, though. It's you're walking like 10 feet, and it's like I gotta catch my breath. that high altitude. Seriously, because the first year I stayed, we had the entire venue. So there was the main lodge, and then there were cabins. And I was in the second cabin. So it was maybe a 20-foot walk. It was a challenge. It was like, and they're like, Vince, are you okay? I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. So, but, so that's that. And as we said, there's the scholarship, and we do fundraising, which the Guys Who Knit t-shirts has been a major fundraiser for the Knitting Retreat scholarship funds.
Yeah, most of us have multiple shirts and multiple colors and styles.
Yes, it's like this is the guy who coordinates the Great Lakes Retreat. He usually is in charge of that because I designed this, and I haven't been inspired to come up with a new one. I'm like
we were close there.
And we were. Somebody gave me an idea, and I just haven't. It just hasn't hit me. So, like once or twice a year, he'll put this up on custom ink, and of course, there's always somebody that after they're delivered, they're like, "Oh, I love that. I wish I had known." It's like, we've been harassing you for months. Where have you been?
Pretty much.
So, but that helps. So in our show notes, we will have the links to the Men's Knitting Retreat websites. There's a group on Facebook, several groups on Facebook, and there is a group in Ravelry. The website has a lot of information. I looked at it this afternoon just to get a few notes on it, and I'm like, oh, there's lots of information here. Mm-hmm. Lots of pictures from past retreats, so it's just kind of memory lane.
And I have to say, I'm sure you'd agree, one of our biggest things that we missed this year is going to the yarn store the first night and second, the first night and the first morning of the retreat.
Because Thursday evening we would meet at the yarn store. We would have Joanne's lasagna dinner.
Joanne's a subscriber. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Joanne. And the owners of it's not Stitching Memories anymore.
It's not Stitching Memories. It's Sticks with Chicks.
Chicks with Sticks. Yes, they love us, and they're very generous. They give a generous donation, discount to us because men with disposable income, they love us.
And then they also do basically a raffle where you pick they give you a ticket, and they pull out your ticket. When you pull your ticket, you get a prize, and it could be anything from like maybe a little project bag, a set of needles, some yarn, a kit for a project, like
just a whole bunch of stuff. Stuff. Mm-hmm. So when you hear us ramble about the men's knitting retreats, or specifically the Great Lakes Men's Knitting Retreat, ding! This is what we're talking about, and it is a great community, and we've made a lot of lifelong friends.
Yeah.
That there are certain guys we've both said we are lucky to have him in our lives. Mm-hmm. We really are. But enough about that. I think we've rambled sufficiently.
I think so.
So let's get to the knitting content.
The nitty-gritty.
The nitty as well as the gritty. And we're going to start with the works in progress.
Works in progress?
Works in progress.
Works in progress. How many do you have?
I think I have 3.
Well then,
Not the weather.
You should start then.
Okay.
Because I only got 1.
Okay. Actually, I lied. I have 2. So I'll start.
Okay.
So, a couple episodes ago, I showed my Icelandic sweater that I made in the 1980s. And everyone loved it, and it reminded me, that I did really like this sweater. And the thing is, I'm like, it's just a little snug. It's not comfy. It fits, but it's a little snug. Well, went online, started looking for yarn. Of course, I stashed dough first. I said, I know I have some Reynolds Smoky wool. And I found 4 balls of yarn. 2 full ones of one color and 1 and maybe 2/3 of a ball of another. And I'm like, well, it's really not enough. So I started looking and pricing, and eventually I just bit the bullet and bought some yarn. So I ordered that, and it came in. I knew what was going to happen when I knit a gauge swatch. I had those 4 skeins, and I said, well, let me knit a gauge swatch. They'll keep me busy. And I did, and I got gauge, and then I just went to Webb's and ordered the yarn. So I did the smart thing, and I started with a sleeve. So I have completed the first sleeve, and I measured the sleeve, and I have hit gauge. My gauge was off slightly on my swatch, but on the sleeve, I have gauge. So I'm very happy with it. The main color is space blue, and then the accent of the sleeve, and it will also be the yoke is sheep's sorry, I believe it's called. So that's what's the off-white here, and up in the yoke that will be this brown color. And then you'll see it more, there is a dark grayish tweed, and that will be the accent colors, which is the dark navy blue in this. So I'm very happy with it. It fits nicely and just, and it's a good fit. It's not baggy. The cuffs fit nicely.
You should really just make 2 sleeves.
Yeah.
Just wear the sleeves. It's like a dickie, but for your arms.
Arm dickies.
Arm dickies.
Yes. But I'm liking it, because I do remember that the first one I really did like, and it gets a little cold in Buffalo in the winter, so it's very fun, and it knits up quickly. This did not take me that long, and I was working on other stuff at the same time, so I'm very happy with that. So that is my first
Alright.
whip.
I mean, so for me, I have, technically it's a work in progress. Technically it's also a hoe. So I was telling Vince,
Calling a hoe.
well, but that's for another episode. So I was telling Vince earlier, I'm like, talking to him, like, why can't I just, finish the gifts, because I still at this point haven't seen anybody that I've knitted Christmas gifts for, so I wasn't stressing about hurrying up to knit them, because most of them are done, and what's not done will be done by this weekend when I see people. But rather than just work on the things I already had planned and whatnot, it was like, oh, you know what, I made him that hat, I still have more of that yarn, should make him a matching pair of mittens. Or, I'm making him a pair of mittens. Oh, well, I knit that hat for so-and-so, but it matches his mittens because it's the same yarn, so I should make that a set and then make another hat for the other person. This is the way, my mind works. So, the 2 hats I already gave to they're actually a couple, so I gave them both the hats. And my hoe / work in progress is a pair of mittens to match the hat. I do have a picture of the hat that I'll put up here so that you can see the matching. So honestly, this will probably be done tonight. I do the mittens magic loop. It was how I actually got to the point where, you know, I didn't think magic loop was scary anymore. And I never wanted to do magic loop before. I always said, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do magic loop. It's too difficult, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't imagine doing these any other way. I despise double-pointed needles. I will use them if I absolutely have to, but anything I can do to avoid using them, I will. But, so yeah, I mean, this is at the point now where it's just knitting around until you get to the certain amount, and then do the decreases, then do the same thing on the thumb, and that one will be done. Then he'll have a full hat and mitten set. That's for my boss that we were talking about earlier. And the yarn is Crystal Palace Merino 5. It's let's say a heavier DK. And I love working with it. I was telling Vince earlier that there was one ball that, I don't know why, but like every row I was running into another knot in the ball. But whatever, it happens. The pattern will be in the show notes, but I can't. It's like called Classic Mittens 615, number 615 or something. It's a really old vintage. It's a vintage pattern that somebody resurrected from an old book that's been out of print for many years and put online for free. So we'll put that in there. It is on Ravelry. And now back to you.
Well, after all my holiday knitting was done, I got back to the Afternoon Shadows shawl. And it's come along nicely. I'm liking how it's looking. I was having some challenges at the beginning, hiding the edge of the color change, and I've made a couple of errors, but I just kept going because I know what I did wrong, but it's not horribly wrong, actually. I even did another one that I didn't notice there. So this was supposed to be, I was making two of them, one for my cousin and for her girlfriend, who is now her fiance. I think this one, because it's a learning experience, I'm going to keep because I'm kind of liking it. So I may just do two other ones. I have another one started just barely because I really wasn't sure of the pattern. I needed to just work on it and just get the hang of it, which I feel I have now. And the problems in it, they won't bother me, but I don't want to give somebody something that I know there's things wrong in it. So I'm going to finish this one, keep it for myself. The second one has barely begun. I will work on that, making sure not to make my little oopsies. And then I'll cast on another one to...
I don't know, for some reason, this is... Strand what?
Yes.
What?
Well, there are certain things that I find a pattern and I like it. And
oh no, I meant, I'm not going to make that mistake next time.
Yeah, that. Well, the Strand Wander, the beginning part, I might have made it 8 times before I got through that beginning part and did it correct. It just always challenged me. I blamed it on the designer having English as a second language. That was my excuse.
I mean, that's a good excuse the first time, but what about the other 6 times?
Every single time I made that same mistake, and it was like, damn it, you did this the last time. I was so proud of myself when I didn't do it that 8th time. Hey, 8 times the charm.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, It's like cutting a pie. It's that first piece is always to the hard one. It's the first 7 pieces that are always the hard ones.
Oh my.
But I'm liking this pattern. Mom might get one next Christmas, you know. It's like when I find a scarfy shawl pattern that I like, and Mom did like her clockwork. the holiday shawls did go over well. She got hers. She liked it a lot. My brother's girlfriend liked the Speed Shop shawl. She was very happy with that. So, and my brother liked his hat. He always wears them. He is that guy that in a Buffalo winter, hat, gloves, coat, and shorts. He is that Buffalo guy.
So am I.
So,
The only reason I'm wearing pants right now is because they're the pants I wore to work and I haven't changed.
Mm-hmm. So that's it for the works in progress.
So, I guess we're back to me. I've got some foes.
Faux.
Some foes.
Faux.
I actually had a lot more, but like I said, I gave out 2 hats. The one that I'll show with the mittens, and while I'm organizing here, I'll show you the other hat right here. So I went a little Ross hat crazy.
I have no idea
This
what
Christmas.
you're talking about.
I know I can't. I don't know however that.
No idea what you might be referring to.
So those 2 that I gave away were Ross hats, as well as
it's just a nice basic hat that is
really
easy
is.
to work. It works up easy and it looks really, really nice.
It does. So the other 2 were in like the DK number 3 weight. This one was the number 4 weight. I did, and nothing to do with his pattern or anything. Just obviously my knitting tension, my gauge. Next time I will definitely, he says to do this one on a 10. Next time I'll definitely use a 9, because I actually had to cut out the knit rows between the decrease rows, because had I added in each of those when I was decreasing, it would have come down to my eyeballs.
You would have had a slouchy hat.
Yeah. It would have been very slouchy.
Yeah, your gauge is, but dependent on the noggin of the person getting this.
Oh, well, so it's my brother-in-law, so it's my brother's husband. So I messaged him and I'm like, he has a big noggin like we do, like it's a family trait, this gigantic head. And he laughed and he's like, yeah, he does. I was like, good, because like it fits me well.
Yeah, and some people don't like a tight-fitting hat.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be one that he doesn't want. I know him well enough to know that he's not gonna want like a slouchy hat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is actually gonna be perfect the way that I made it, because it's not gonna be like constricting his head, but it's also not gonna be, super slouchy like the one I made for my brother, because he does, enjoy a slouchy hat. So that was how Ross hat 3 of 4, because I still have to make another one, because like I said, I had made one for my other brother-in-law, but I ended up giving it to somebody else, so now I gotta make another one. Whatever. So there's that. That's my first one. What do you got, Vince? What are those over
funny
there?
You should mention the Ross hat. A friend of mine is doing a winter warmth fundraiser. He's collecting hats and gloves and socks for to give to the homeless shelters. And when I needed a break between my holiday knitting, just something to cleanse the palate, I would take some yarn that I had and I would cast on a hat. And the Ross hat was just such an easy decision. And it's fun and it looks good and it's easy to do, and you can bang one out in no time at all.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can do little things like add stripes of color. You know,
So
that
fancy.
makes it fun. And then I said, well, hey, let's add a bit of a stitch pattern to it. So I took the ribbing and went every other. I didn't do the pearls, and I switched that to garter rib and made these ridges in it. So just a little alternate to your basic Ross hat, because it's
fancy.
such a flexible pattern. And you know, it uses up those, you know, like little half skeins of yarn that you have, or those leftovers. Especially like now, I did the stripes because I had extra yarn, and I thought, well, I do see another one. We'll figure that, you know. And I'm liking how it looks with the stripes. You know, it just gives it that little extra. And I talked to my friend. I said, when are you going to be giving away these things? I have a bunch of hats to give you, so I'll be giving them those. And then there's the other hat. I don't remember what it's called. The textured one.
Oh, oh, come on.
Well, I did that
Starting
pattern.
grid.
Starting grid, yes. So I did a couple of them in that pattern as well. It's just, you know, it's easy and it uses up your yarn, and you get some nice hats that I'll be donating for this fundraiser. And you know,
So not only will the homeless people be warm, they'll be quite stylish.
stylish as well. Yes. So that's that. Those are my finished objects of this month, because everything else was given away for the holidays. So
See, that's where I got lucky. Is I still have everything because I haven't given anything away yet. All right. So keeping in the hat theme. So last year,
and it's not a Ross hat,
right? It's
You
not
know?
a Ross hat.
But we do love the Ross hat. Great little pattern.
So last year, on the way back from the Great Lakes Men's Knitting Retreat,
Ding.
I was making a cowl that ended up being a Christmas gift for my father. And I wanted to do, like, I had practiced doing cables before, whatever. And I was like, I want to, shut up. I wanted,
Tell us about the cable.
I'm getting there. So
What happened with the cables?
I found this basic cowl pattern, and I had bought some yarn from one of the guys because that's one of the things we do at the retreat. We have a room where you can bring yarn from your stash, or if you have any other like knitting related, if you make project bags, whatever, you can bring them and you can sell them to the other guys that are there. Or, you know, if you happen to have stash that it's laying around, you don't want it, you think somebody else might, you can leave it there and be like, hey, you know, go pick through that, have, you know, take what you want, type of thing.
And all of the guys usually give a percentage of what they make to the scholarship fund. You know, some guys, it's like, I just have this yarn, make a donation and give it to the scholarship fund. Or if they're selling what they have, they'll give a percentage of it to the scholarship fund. So
I bought this yarn. I'm like, you know what? Let me get myself a project to work on the way back. I'm gonna teach myself how to do cable. So, you know, we're driving. Vince is driving. I'm in the passenger seat. I'm knitting. I'm just knitting along.
I'm driving.
And all of a sudden, I get so confused as to why. I'm like, I just don't understand. I keep getting to this cable part, and I can't. Like, it's just so tight. I can't, you know, get the needle in it to knit it. And so this one over here, he's like, "What? Well, what are you doing? How often how often do you cable? I'm like, what do you mean? I do it every row. And I thought he was going to crash the car when I said that because he was laughing so hard. Yeah, I had been twisting the cable every row, so I ended up just pulling out the whole damn thing and starting over.
It's like, no, that's wrong. That's really wrong. No, there's no way you're going to be able to fix that. So you're going to rip that back.
So, I went back and, actually read the directions, actually, read them. And it's like, it turns out I cable.
Who does that?
It's like, turns out I cable every 8 rows or something like, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I did ask, well, how many rows between cable crosses are you doing?
Huh? What?
And I said, well, how many rounds do you get plain before you cross the cable? I'm doing it every round. Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Anyways, so I gave that cowl to my dad, and honestly, it was I didn't necessarily want it, and I was like, I don't know, who would I, and I'm like, I'll give it to my dad, see if he likes it. If he doesn't, no big deal, I'll make him something else. But turns out he actually loved it. My mom said that he has the John Deere with the plow on it that he does the driveway with, and he wears it every time that he's out there on the plow because it covers, his entire mouth and nose and everything. So I was like, you know what? I have a lot of that yarn, and I really liked that pattern. So I made my first little venture into altering a pattern, I guess. And I turned that cowl pattern into a hat. So you can see it has that one single cable detail. I love this yarn. I still have a lot more of it, so I'll probably make something for myself. But it's like, that navy blue tweed, but it has all those little different colored tweed specks in it, which I absolutely love. And it's I believe a wool and acrylic blend, so it's super soft. It's like, I had this hat on my head for just a little while, and I was already getting warm. So yeah, like I looked at a few different bulky weight hat patterns to try to figure out what I was going to do for the decreases, and I have it all written down. I need to add it to the notes for this pattern, or who knows, maybe I'll just write it up as its own hat pattern.
There you go.
Maybe I'll take this cable and repeat it a couple times around. Who knows? Anything could happen.
Who can say?
But that is the hat that I made for my dad. It's just a simple cabled hat. Let me torse her on real quick. It fits perfect. It's not quite as big as that one, but my dad, the big head comes from my mom's side. My dad, I don't think, has quite as big of a head as we do, so that should fit him perfectly. Anything else?
No, that's all. All my finished objects. My foes. My foes. Do you have more foes?
That's okay. I have one more foe.
Mofos?
Mofos.
Could that be?
It is
another pattern by Ross?
By Ross? I think, I showed this as a work in progress last time.
Yes.
I did finish it. If you follow us on Instagram, you saw that I finished it. Both of the works in progress from the last episode I finished that day. So this is a Speed Shop shawl that will be for my sister. It is such a great pattern. It's like, just when you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this stitch anymore, it's like, oh, I'm done. I go to the next one. And like I said, I ranted and raved about it last time, but the way that he wrote that pattern with a little checklist and everything, it just sang to my little ADHD heart, being able to keep track of where it was. Get that real close so you can see all the different stitches and probably all the cat hair that's attached to it. I did end up steam blocking it, so now it has a really nice drape. It was a little stiff before, but I just pinned it, stretched it, and steamed it, and that was actually my first time ever steam blocking something, so I really liked that process, and it worked well because this is acrylic yarn, so you can't do much else other than that. But yes, Beach Shop Shawl by Ross. Great pattern. I'll definitely make another one of those at some point, maybe for my mom. That is it. That is all I have for vintage objects.
Okay. Next, acquisitions.
No.
You have no acquisitions?
No.
Who are you?
What's next?
Who are you?
Acquisitions is not next. Who are you?
Right. Silly me.
It's his segment and he forgot about it.
Well, I'm tomato.
They would have been so upset.
Tomato. Yes, vintage knitting.
Ooh.
Well, we've gone through the really horrifying old vintage knitting sweaters that I've done. I've been looking through my collection and I'm like, well, all of these aren't really that horrifying. And some of them, they're within the last 20 years, where there's one sweater I know I made back like in the 90s, and I'm like, I couldn't find the pattern. I'm like, oh, I thought it was in this book, but it's not. So I've got to do...
I hate to tell you this, but that would be within the last 30 years.
Well, yeah, but the rest of what I have is like next. Shut up. Shut up. I know what I'm talking about.
I was just, trying to make sure you realize how old you are.
Yeah. So, I couldn't quite find where the pattern was, because what I have and what the pattern was are kind of two different things, and it's an amusing little piece. So we'll bring that eventually. So I dug through and I said, well, this has a fun story, and it's a nice looking sweater. It is from Simply Beautiful Sweaters for Men. And back when I got into knitting again, this was a book I really liked. And I liked a lot of the patterns. Of course, I don't know where the pattern is in this book, so I'm just going to ramble on while I look for this. Page 59.
As they would say on Needles at the Ready, it's just turning into a poop show.
Poop show. Well, we aren't quite a hot mess. So this is the sampler sweater.
Ooh.
And it's just different pattern stitches, and I thought, well, this is a fun looking little sweater. I do really like the sweaters in this pattern book. My only thing is they are all knit flat.
Ooh.
And they are all knit in pieces from the bottom up. I hate seaming. And I have noticed while looking through my old sweaters, when it's bottom up sweater, they tend to be short. The measurement was never quite long enough, and just, because we have a bit of a tum-tum, so, that pulls things up. And I hate seaming sweaters. I really do. Have I mentioned how much I dislike seaming sweaters? So, that's the thing.
So Vince, what is that sweater that you're making now?
but it's knit in the round.
Yes, yes, yes.
And from the wonderful Wallaby, I figured out how to make the body long enough. So this is the sampler sweater that I made way back when. This main color, it was mystery yarn that I got at the Knitting Guild yarn auction. It was 2 ginormous balls of this gray yarn. We didn't know what it was. The woman who ran the auction was like, it might be an acrylic, and I'm like, I don't think so. So I did the burn test, and it didn't melt. It smelled like hair. So I'm like, this is animal fiber. So it was a really ginormous, 2 ginormous balls. Biggest one I used, and I made the front and the back with. So I said, well, I might get an entire sweater out of it. Well, I said, I'm gonna play it safe. And I took the second one and I split it in half, and I started one of the sleeves, and I got about halfway. And I said, okay, I'm not gonna get 2 sleeves out of this. So I used an accent color, and I said I'll incorporate it in the neckline, and it's sort of wearing it, which we have a picture that Justin will include here of me wearing it, or I will torture him. And it has that look of, a short sleeve shirt over a long sleeve shirt. And this has been sitting in a drawer for some time, so this putting it on was the first time, and I'm like, it's really a comfy sweater. The only thing, necklines were always my trouble. Every time, every vintage knit that we've shown, I've had to take the glasses off to get that neckline over my head. But
the thing is, once you have it on, it looks fine.
Oh, it looked good, and it was comfy, and it was warm, because I do remember at one point I was working at this print shop in an old building in Allentown. It was winter, and heat was not a strong suit of that building. So I wore all my big fuzzy warm sweaters that year, because it was cold in there. Of course, it's the only time, because every place else that I've worked since then, it's like hot. You get there and it's like, okay, I'm stripping down to a t-shirt. So, but that is the latest and greatest of vintage knitting. Like I said, it is a great pattern book. It's just everything is knit flat and top, bottom up. There are other sweaters in there that I really like. I think I just would probably figure them out how to do them as a top down in the round sweater,
or even at least a bottom up in the round, like one or the other.
It's just I managed with the Wallaby, and I know I can manage with the Icelandic, but I really prefer doing top down, because then you can put it on, and the yoke, it will fit right, and you can just keep knitting, say, okay, this isn't long enough, I want to make this longer. And if you do it too long, you can just rip some back.
Just giggling because, you've said, bottom up and
bottom
top
up
down.
And top down.
And just my filthy mind is...
I have no idea what you're talking about. I am sweet and innocent.
And your hair right now just makes it all that much better.
Yeah. My coif needs to be adjusted.
Your Bernie Sanders hair is...
My coif needs to be adjusted. So, funny thing is, my love of sweater knitting has returned. So, I did the Wallaby, I'm doing the Icelandic, and I dug out my Ann Budd's Knitter's Handy Book of top-down sweaters. So that might be the next, because in my stash I have a sweater's worth of yarn. So I'm like, this could be what I make next. So, Because for a while, I had not knit sweaters. I was doing, socks and shawls.
I mean, I love knitting the sweater that I'm knitting right now. I just haven't had the time to do it.
Well, you had holiday knitting.
Yeah, I just haven't had the time to work on.
So once that your holiday knitting is done, you can concentrate on your sweater.
Once that's done, that sweater's you're gonna watch that sweater grow exponentially.
And that's the thing I like about the Icelandic sweater is I know that's going to be a fast knit.
Oh yeah,
that will go much faster even.
Than that whole middle portion. It's just knit.
Stacking it in the round.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'll be doing is adding new balls of yarn.
Mm-hmm.
So that is vintage knitting.
Yes.
Like I said, I have another one that's kind of horrific. I just have to find the pattern. Because the difference between the picture and the pattern and what I made, it's like I look back and go, what was I thinking? God damn you, Liz. Why didn't you talk me out of this? But that's that. I do have quite a collection of vintage men's knitting patterns, and they are just too humorous for words. And I'll be sharing some of those, some from the 80s, some even earlier than that.
Oh no.
That are just too funny and horrifying for words. I just am highly amused by them. So that's all for vintage knitting.
Yes.
Now,
no, I still don't have any.
well, all I have, because I made the purchase, is the Lopi yarn that I purchased. So like I said, I stashed Dove, and I had some Reynolds Lopi yarn. I had this, which it's a dark gray with flecks of color in it. And I had 2 full skeins of this. And the pattern calls for 2 full skeins for the accent color. Of course, the secondary color, you needed 5. The main color, so I'm like, okay, those I have to buy. Well, Reynolds no longer makes Lopi yarn. So it's now Elifa's Lopi. It's what they call it. And I, went through and I'm looking at the different colors, and I figured since I'm buying the yarn from Webs, I can get the colors I wanted. Because I do remember that one, it was like that purpley heathery color. It was basically, that was the color that she had the most of, that there was a sweater's worth. So I kind of wound up with that. It's like, I didn't hate it, but it wouldn't have been my first choice. So, because, blue is more of my color. So this is space blue. I will say on the website, it looked brighter. I thought it was going to be like, more of like a cobalt blue. But, because I can't wear those bright blue colors, But I like it, and in good light, it is a really nice color of blue. And then this is called Sheep Sorrel. So it's like a very warm brown, almost like a Merlot.
Yeah, like a reddish brown.
Yeah. And they look good, and I like that the accent color, that secondary color, isn't a light color. Because that's sort of the traditional look for Lopi sweaters, is that the cuffs and the band and the yoke are like natural colored or off-white or cream, and I like that I'm doing a very different color. And this, I just figured, well, it's great, it's gonna work, and I know I have 2 balls of it.
Yeah,
because the other one, it was like a navy blue, and the second ball, I know I had used it and made a hat with it. So I said, I don't want a chance not having enough, because I couldn't find anything that compared the numbers and colors of Lopi to this. So I couldn't.
Yeah.
There wasn't, anything that I was sure would come even close to it. So I said, let's use what we can, but I do like working with it, and I'm not a fan of bulky yarn. Worsted is about as heavy as I like to go, but I do remember I liked working with Loki.
Mm-hmm.
It's very woolly, sheepy yarn, and you get to do the split splash, which I so enjoy doing. I thoroughly enjoy doing a split splice in public because it horrifies the non-knitters. Because it's like I lick the palms of my hand and get it nice and wet and do that, and you see somebody who's not a knitter across the room just like wondering what the hell you're doing. And the other knitters were always such an ass. You're just taking too much pleasure in doing that. Yeah, so that's
what we got.
That's all the knitting content I have for us.
I got snutsing.
Okay, so we're approaching doneness, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Make sure you do all the things.
Do
the
likes,
YouTube the comments, the subscribes, the notification bell.
Join our Ravelry group.
Yes, join our Ravelry group.
We as of this morning, we were at 425 subscribers.
Yes.
So we'll probably do something at 500.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we're going to do a live broadcast.
Yes. Maybe a live broadcast at 500.
That's something. He lives at the Lennox Hotel where he works, so...
Oh, sure. Tell him all my address.
I didn't give him the number. So if we do...
They all got the Google.
The Googles. Like people couldn't find either of us any darn way.
Very true.
So I'll be staying at the hotel when we do the live broadcast because we know we're going to be a little boozy. We're going to live up to the name of Boozy Bear.
Oh yes, that is definitely something you'll want to tune in for.
Live broadcast will be high level booze.
If you think that we are jackasses when we're sipping on one cocktail while we film this episode, imagine when we're sipping on multiple cocktails and doing shots and
just hot mess. We will be a hot mess.
So yeah, I definitely think 500 subscribers. So tell 75 of your friends to come over and join us and
ring that bell.
Ring a ding a ding.
Ring-a-ling, ding-a-ling.
To ring those bells.
You got to ring those bells.
Oh, we're not gay or anything.
Not at all.
I love those JINGLE bells.
I think our episode of The Prom kind of, she's like butter. Like butter.
All right. What are we even doing now?
We have turned in a total poop fest, as Ray would say.
I finished my entire cocktail.
Yeah, I noticed that it is refreshing.
Might have to make another one after Vince leaves.
So,
do you need a to-go cup? Do you want a roadie?
No, we're not gonna do a roadie.
Don't drink and drive.
No, do not drink and drive.
Oh my God, I shouldn't even joke about that.
No.
All right, now, well, before we Before we
I don't
convince-
think we could get any lower.
Before we convince somebody to commit a felony with a open container.
As Dorothy Zbornak said in an infamous level of the Golden Girls, I'm either going for ice cream or commit a felony. I'll decide in the car.
I just watched that episode the other day. All right, everyone. Until next time.
To close with the Golden Girls references, what gay culture is all about. To your straight friends, you're Blanche Devereaux. Mm-hmm. To your gay friends, you're Dorothy Zbornak.
Mm-hmm. Basically,
and it's so true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone posts that on Facebook and you comment, why didn't you just tag me in this post?
Oh, all right,
They're
guys.
all just shaking their heads.
They are
hitting that unsubscribe.
Right,
button.
unsubscribe.
We'll drop to under 400. So we will be back with more of this in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
In 2021.
2021.
New year. Be safe this new year. Be careful.
Stay home.
Stay home.
There's no reason to go out. You don't need to go out. You don't need to.
No.
You don't need to go spread the COVID.
And as I said, there's not 65 people I want to be around. There aren't 65 people I like. I enjoyed this nice, quiet Christmas. The best part of Christmas was we didn't eat like it was our job. Because Christmas Eve, we would go to my uncle's house. And there would be snacks, and there would be cookies, and then there would be the buffet of food, and all those things that you only eat at Christmas time, so you eat a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Eve, we had a nice little the Italian chicken cutlets, some rice and broccoli casserole. We had some cookies for dessert. Christmas Day, we had a ham with sweet potatoes and leftover rice and broccoli, and it was fine. It was enough, and chocolate pie for dessert. Mm-hmm. Instead of 3 kinds of pies and this candy and that candy and this dessert, and there's 5 different pies, and I gotta try all of them. And somebody made your favorite cake, and these cookies that my aunt only makes at Christmas time. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So we didn't eat like, we were gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like,
And
what did I eat that
I don't
day?
think you knew about this. Christmas Day, I went to church with my mother.
I did see that. I saw that on Facebook.
I was shocked that there weren't the jackassery comments.
I thought about it, but I'm like, it's Christmas. I'll give them a pass.
Yeah,
I was wondering how the building didn't fall down, but
it has good.
I'm sure it vibrated a little bit.
It has a good, strong structure. Well, because 10 years ago, Christmas Day, that's when we lost Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a mass for him every year, and usually my older brother takes her, but he didn't come into town because of the COVIDs. So Christmas Eve, I backed the car into the garage so we didn't get 3 feet of snow.
You can make a cameo this time. Say hi.
And then after church, we were like, well, let's see if we can find some place we can get breakfast takeout.
Say hi.
And everything was closed. So we went home.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But that's that. So now that we've rambled on for, I think, at least a good 10 minutes post
yeah, we're about an hour and 20 minutes long.
Yeah, and this was after a pause.
Well, this is we're an hour, so this is
an
there was
hour
20
now.
minutes before that. Yeah. So
that happened last time too.
Yes, it did.
All right, we will be back in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Have a good New Year's. Stay safe. Be careful. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Do not harass people who work in stores. If a store has a sign saying wear a mask, just wear the mask.
Just feckin' wear it. Just do it.
If you don't want to wear a mask, then stay home. Get curbside. Get delivery. Don't be a jackass. Because I could never work in retail. I see those TikTok videos, people losing their minds about wearing a mask, and I'm like, I'd turn a hose on them. I would like take their selfie stick and beat them with it.
We're going on another tangent.
I know we are.
Another tangent.
So,
anyways,
for the third or fourth time,
yes.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye. See you in 2 weeks.